And in return, I'm going to spend 3 hours reading a book wrapped in a blanket with the heater on in the corner and not see another human soul, right? So challenge yourself, reward yourself, because it is something you need to do. And it's super valuable. Hello and welcome to the Pybites Podcast, where we talk about Python, career, and mindset. We're your hosts. I'm Julian Sequeira.
And I am Bob Belderbos. If you're looking to improve your Python, your career, and learn the mindset for success, this is the podcast for you. Let's get started. Welcome back, everybody, to the Pybites Podcast. Here's Bob Belderbos, and I'm here with...
Julian, how's it going, man?
Yeah, awesome. I have too much caffeine in my system, so excuse me if I'm rattling today, or I just
You're on fire. You're on fire this morning. Your messages, you were running all over the place. It was great.
Yeah, I like the energy. Yeah, so all good.
All is good. I am well. Actually, this is the first time I think you and I are recording. We always say this after a string of guests, but what, a month? It's been a month. Maybe?
Yeah, we had Jim, Blaze, Cassandra. Was that all in between? Wow, 104, 105, 106, and 107. The comeback. Yeah. Well, we were together on the Blaze episode. Yeah,
that's true. I mean, we love our guests, but it's still nice just to be the two. I miss it when it's just the two of us.
It's getting less regular. Yeah,
exactly.
But anyway, we want to keep it pretty tight today. So
I've got a lot of things to run through. So let's go through wins. You first.
Okay, the wins. Wins. Basketball. My son is playing in a club since a year, and we have games and stuff. And I'm just noticing how great that is for him. I played myself 11 to 16, so he beat me because he's 9, so he's already playing. And just the team context, right? Collaborating and also doing real games. So winning, bit of competition element. It's just, and the sports, right? The physical movement. So it's just very positive, and I much enjoy it. And last Saturday, they won the game by 1 point, and it was. I think we as parents, we're more nervous at the end how equalized it was than the actual kids. So it was really fun. Yeah,
that's awesome. Nice work. That's very, very cool. Give him a high five for me.
I will do that. Yeah. That's what about you?
Personal win. Well, I could say family stuff, but I'm going to be really selfish. Really selfish today. So I mentioned in the last episode that I just got back from some travel, and one thing I didn't mention is that while I was walking the streets of Tokyo, I stumbled upon a Pokemon Center. So for those of you listening and watching, I am a big fan of Pokemon. I'm a big fan of Nintendo in general. So to see one of those was just mind-blowing to me. And so I came back when the shop was open and went inside and spent way too much money, bought stuff for the family, for myself. So, for those of you watching on YouTube, I got this cool Gengar plush toy, and I got this awesome coaster with Charizard on it, but it says Lizardon because that's like the Japanese name. Anyway, I'm not going to nerd it up more than Python, but it was really cool.
So that's so cool, nerdy,
bit of a dream,
and bit jealous you got to go to Tokyo. That's that's so amazing.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Nice.
But as a combined win, I just wanted to share with everyone watching and listening. We're coaches, right? With PDM, with our client program and everything. And yes, everyone has wins in the program. It's awesome to see that stuff. It's just, we want to be able to share those because we're like proud parents. When we see the clients, our clients achieving things, we're super proud. So a win for us this week was seeing one of the guys, Michael, make his first pull request on an open source repo, and it was massive, and he was super proud. Do you want to elaborate, Bob, or is that enough?
I think that's enough. Yeah, it's definitely a scary thing to do, and seeing somebody growing with us through PDM and building the skills and the confidence, and then be able to do it and really have a thoughtful discussion about it, and seeing how much then he learned from it, right? And
Mm.
it's because there was typing involved, and a lot of stuff, and it was really cool. It's really fills us with joy seeing that, and something I think he thought was not possible, yet he's doing it now. So
That's awesome. Yeah, that fills me with a lot of pride. So I'm very happy. All right. So look, we've got a lot to run through. So let's dive straight in. This episode, we're talking about what tips for people breaking into this industry, right?
Yes, and I want to quote a tweet we were pinged on in very good company. I'll expand on that. So let me read the tweet. So it's from Pymode_dev. Well, that's the name. The handle is at PyModeD. In 8th habit, Covey say, to have a quantum improvement, we have to work on paradigm, not practices, attitudes, which will give us linear improvement. At Pybites, at Uncle Bob Martin, at generalist, and others, please, what is your advice for a beginner in the industry? Follow-up tweet. The paradigm means assumption, theory, and perception. What are the paradigms to believe and not believe in software craftsmanship industry? So first of all, we're honored to be in the company of Uncle Bob and Mike Driscoll.
And secondly, that was a bloody mouthful to read, I tell you.
Yeah. Did I do well? Bit of imposter syndrome.
You did well. You did well.
Okay.
It's okay. I'll pay you back.
Mike Driscoll, you had on the podcast as well, so that was nice. And we could just have jumped in with an answer, but actually we promised. Let's think about it a little bit more and put some effort in it. And we decided to do a podcast. So here we are.
Yeah. So PyModeDev, this is for you, responding to your request for some tips. So Bob, I'm going to kick it off if you don't mind.
We got 8, right? So we got
8 tips. So we'll try and split it 4 each. We might just bleed into each other. Who knows how this will go?
Well, all right. The first one is close to your heart.
The first
so
one's
nice
my
one.
jab. That's why I said I'll go first. Number 1 is communication. So communication is everything. I mean, everything. Your code also works as communication, right? So the clearer your code, the notes that you have in the code, like the comments and everything like that, that's a form of communication. But don't forget the communication skills of actually working with your stakeholders, right? You have to be able to speak with your manager, with your teammates, with the people that you're building for, the teams, whoever it happens to be. And communication is everything. If you cannot communicate your ideas, if you cannot communicate what you want, what you need, deadlines, extensions, whatever it is, even roadblocks and complications, then you won't find yourself being very successful. And people might actually think you're being a blocker yourself. So when you can communicate well, you will find that success. And I'll stop at that one.
Yeah.
Well, that's over communicating.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I think we can leave it to that. Just that, cannot be stated enough. Like, it's not only about the tech skills. Code is communication to your future self, to your team, but also the whole process before getting to the code, the requirements, the design. There's a lot of communication going on there. And the better you understand other people and can communicate your vision, the better that will ripple through in the software.
Yep. All right. Number 2, go for it.
Number 2, deliberate practice. Code every day. Drop tutorial paralysis. Learn to be resourceful and adopt JIT learning. So a whole mouthful, but we've talked about this a lot. I think our second episode was already about tutorial paralysis. But coding is such a practical craft that you need to really hone those skills. And the only way you can really get very good at it, reach mastery, is to code every day. But not just code for the sake of coding, right? Seek more advanced goals as you go. So move that skill. So be very deliberate about what you do, and ditch the books. Nice. Be resourceful. Know how to find the answers, even how to ask the right questions, right? And JIT learning, we also spoke about that a lot. Just-in-time learning. So again, ditch the books and all those resources. Use them as stuff comes up.
Use them like we used to use encyclopedias back in the day. seek out the thing you need, get it, use it, put it back on the shelf.
Yeah.
I like it.
Okay. I'll leave it at that. Number 3.
Number 3, adopt a growth mindset. So that's a big one. Mindset related. It's a big one because, as you break into this field, into this industry, you're going to hit roadblock after roadblock. And it may not even be code related. It may be process related. It could be team related, whatever it is. It's really important to have a growth mindset, approach every situation from a perspective of growth. So learn from your mistakes. Don't just sit there and beat yourself up or think that you're the worst or that you're terrible. Look at it as an opportunity to learn, embrace that imposter syndrome. So whenever you're feeling fearful that you're taking a big step, that this is something scary, realize, as one of those quotes that I like from LeVar Burton, fear is just excitement waiting to come out. Nice. So embrace it and jump into it, because that's when the growth happens. And this applies to all aspects of, I just want to say your career in general, because obviously you'll have things like code reviews that don't go to plan, whatever it is, that's fine. But then you'll have things like, say, being passed up for promotion, or just maybe being left out of a conversation, or something you'll have to navigate that's not necessarily coding related. So it is important to have this mindset across everything that you do.
The obstacle is the way, right? Like Ryan Holiday's book. Also, like 177. I will link it below. The tips for, basically that book is awesome. And it just talks about, expect things to go wrong, to be tough. And how do you deal with it, right? Like you can complain, whine about it, or as Jim Rohn says, you can don't wish it was easier, but wish you were better, right? And
exactly.
I think you hit that on all levels. So the sooner you can adapt to that mindset, the better.
Yeah. All right, cool. You take the next 2.
Okay. Number 4, be a generalist. Specialize, especially when you start out. Later you can specialize in certain things, but first you want to get an overview, right? So as these tips are for starting out in the industry, I think it's really good, especially when you start out in your younger years, to take in a lot of different skills to develop kind of that well-rounded profile. So I think if we look back at our careers, right, like in the Sun days and when we were starting out, we were just get on everything, right? Like shell scripting, PHP, web development, web design, Unix, you name it, right? We would soak it all. We were like sponges, right? And then later on, you kind of you niche down, and now we're into coaching, right? And Python, so that's pretty specific. But yeah, I think that's wide orientation really gave us a lot of good experience, and also we got clarity on what we really wanted. And in that sense, I still have to read it, but I heard a lot of good about the book Range by Epstein, I think. And that's all about why generalists succeed and why specialists might be too narrow in their focus. But yeah, well, we can do an episode on that when I've read it. But yeah, that book comes to mind when we talk about generalists.
Nice.
Make sense?
Yeah, get it. That's good. Nice.
Right. Do you have similar experience in your early days that you would just take on more things than now, where it's now more narrow?
Yeah, especially when I was younger. I'm still pretty young, but when I was younger, you don't quite know what it is that you want, so you just, like you said, you're like a sponge. You're just trying to find your way, find out what you like. And for me, it very quickly became a troubleshooting thing. I didn't even mind if it was on hardware, if it was software, whatever. And then slowly I started niching down, as you said, as we discovered Python, I'd already tinkered with C++, and I can't remember the other one. Was it Tickle? No, TCL? Is that one?
Could be.
Yeah, I think it was Tickle, whatever it was. I remember playing with these things and go, yeah, it is. But then Python clicked, and that's when I decided to niche down on that with you and really enjoyed it. So yeah, and then again, when we started with Python, cast the net open. There's so many bits and pieces with Python. I remember I was looking at Flask and OpenCV and just command line stuff, whatever else, and we landed where we landed. So
yeah,
there you
awesome.
Go. All right, go number 5.
Number 5, focus on the compound movements, certain language construct, testing, refactoring, software design, over shiny new objects. So that's a bit counter to number 4, right? Being a generalist. But once you start to niche down, I think the best bang for your buck is those compound skills, right? And I think every developer, we wrote about it a few weeks ago, shiny new object, new framework comes around, we need to see it, new tech skills. It's a fast moving target, right? So it's very easy to get distracted with all these new shiny objects. But to be successful as a developer, and we have distilled this in our flashcards, right? It's a set of 10 to 50. You can count them on 2 hands, right? The core skills you really want to invest in. And yeah, just keeping that focus on those compound skills. So again, testing, refactoring, software design. If you're in Python, of course, the standard library, the built-ins. Yeah, that's really important, and that's where we see people get very distracted. And again, that's that tutorial paralysis as well. But yeah, just keep in mind the compound movements like fitness, do those squats and bench presses, and that's probably going to get you the most results.
Love it. Awesome. And we'll link those flashcards in the show notes so you can see what those are. Okay, number 6. I really wanted to take this one. That's why I asked you to do 2 in a row. Skip it. So know the business domain that you are in. I like this quote that you wrote down, Bob. Code does not live in a vacuum. It solves a real world problem. That's a quote from my dear friend, Bob Beldebos. He's a nice guy sometimes. But no, the Thanks, reality is, you're welcome, buddy. You're welcome. The reality, though, is that when you're coding for a specific team, a specific organization, company, in a specific industry, right? You could be a coder for a marketing department. You could be a coder for human resources, for some deep software stack, for DevOps. Just throwing out these buzzwords now, but the reality is, you're coding for someone, you're coding for something, and it's really important that you understand that industry. So the perfect example for me is if you're coding for, say, a marketing team or a marketing organization or company, you really want to understand what that team's vision is. You want to understand what their clients are like, what that team wants. Don't just build in a vacuum and then put something out there and then assume that that's okay. This ties in well with number 1, that communication step, by the way, because if you can communicate and work with them and understand, you'll really excel as you build for this domain. So one of my tips just quickly for that is ask, if you are in these positions, right, coding for these other teams, ask for the day off and then go and partner with someone, go and pair up with someone in that job that you're supporting, that your tool or app or services are supporting, and go and spend the day with them, shadow them, sit there and understand what it's like to be them, to be the user, and go from there. I think it's a really important thing you can do and valuable.
Yeah. No, this is a super valuable one. Yeah. Know the business. So if you're working for construction, or if you're working in the movie business, that will have a lot of influence on the code basis and how things are done. Right. So, if you know that business domain well, you will set yourself apart.
Yep.
Right. 7 and 8, kind of up your alley, but I think 8 is you will do better. So I'll do 7.
You do 7.
Well, one of my favorites as well, right? Share your work, teach others. That's like double, maybe even triple win, right? Because by teaching others, it's something we wrote about it, right, on the blog as well. Not only teachers teach, developers should do the same, something like that, an article, right? Where we also discussed the format of teaching, that it's okay to make mistakes, right? To show the raw process. We really adopted that. But yeah, if you teach others, you just seek a way better understanding. Because how often did you think that you would grasp a Python concept or whatever, and then you had to explain it to somebody else, and you're like, actually, you weren't that sure.
Yep.
That's constantly happening with teaching, right? But also like sharing your work. So apart from understanding it better, you help others. People see that you have a proactive approach, that you're active, that you have that mindset of helping others.
Mm-hmm.
And we think that goes a long way, right? And we often mention it. GitHub is the developer's resume. So all that teaching and getting your work out there leads to content, which will enrich your profile, right? So yeah, again, multiple wins, better understanding, building up your portfolio, helping others. Cannot go wrong with that.
And it's a skill to maintain as you get into the job, right? So you want to make sure that you continue to train and skill up and share your knowledge with your peers, even as a junior, right? It doesn't matter what level you are, because that's a super valuable skill to companies these days. They really want to have people in their teams that are willing to have, again, growth mindset and share and teach and really not just work in a silo. So
yeah, and I do want to mention 2 examples of how that helped us get on the radar. So when I was interviewing for a dev job, we just started Python, Pybites, the blog, right? And I had an interview question about a deck. And I could actually go to the blog and show an article about deck, right? Which was allowed. I could just use anything, right? So how cool is that? Like, I could not only answer the interview question, but I could also show like, hey, I wrote about this. So that of course made a good impression.
Yeah.
And 100 Days of Code, right? That got us on Talk Python's radar, and led to 2 courses we produced. And it was just us doing the 100 Days of Code challenge and just talk about it every day. And we did that so consistently that we ended up with 100 scripts with a very cool repo with a lot of stars. And then it becomes, you get noticed, right? And so that's invaluable for, especially for when starting out, right? For you build up, you build up an asset, and that takes time. So starting out, it's just good to do that from day one.
And just be consistent.
Exactly. Yeah. Angela, cannot remember her surname. Book Grit. If you talk about persistence.
Is that Duckworth?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
There you go. I got you, buddy.
Yeah. So go.
Nice. Okay. Well, look, this is the perfect segue into the last one, which is networking. So do a bit of networking every single week, right? A perfect tip for this one is set a weekly reminder, just like you would to set a reminder to take the bins out or the garbage out every week. Set a reminder to head on to LinkedIn or wherever.
I don't set a reminder
network.
for that.
For what, the bins?
Yeah.
You don't? Oh, that's right. You do the bins every single day. That's why you're always like, hey, I'm taking the garbage out.
Sorry, I derailed you.
What was I talking about? No, so with the networking piece, when you're especially as you're trying to break into the industry, right? It's really important to get your name out there. There's a million people vying for positions, right? So who is going to get the position? The memorable person who reached out, made themselves valuable to the recruiter or the hiring manager or whatever, the person who's been sharing their work, as per your tip just now, Bob, the person who is out there and has some confidence in themselves and building and growing. That's the person that's going to be memorable and, pip everyone else to the post, as in, get the job before everyone else. So, not when I say networking, I mean reach out to people in companies that you're eager to work in. Reach out to people on the teams that you're eager to work on. Reach out to people who have connections in companies that you might be interested in, and see if they're willing to hook you up. Reach out to us, to your friends, to your other family members, anyone who may have a contact, and you would be so surprised the people that you will connect with if you just have that confidence in yourself to have a conversation. I have connected for Pybites benefit. I have connected with so many people that have been able to help us grow Pybites and share things out and just overall be supportive to Bob and I. I've been able to do that just through the most random conversations that in a million years. What a quick example I'll give is just being out at a mate's birthday party in the middle of Sydney at a whiskey bar. I connected with a guy that Bob and I ended up working with for like 6 to 8 months, and he's now a really good friend and that sort of thing. So don't be afraid. Network every week. Don't be afraid to talk about what you're interested in and ask people if they know anyone else. So there you go.
Yeah, it was a contact in a former employer that actually helped me get a job here in Spain. So it wasn't for that contact, might not have stayed here, right? So it was very crucial back then to have that connection. And so, you would be surprised about the coincidences that happen, right? And and a nice quote as well from that book I was reading, How to Write. Very few people ever acquire jobs by sending around resumes. People get jobs by knowing someone, by sticking a foot in the door, by cornering someone, and selling themselves by hook or by crook. Publishing works the same way for the same reason. There are too many people chasing too few slots. So that's, of course, in the context of a writer. But it's kind of general principle, right? Networking can really speed up this whole process. Yeah. And just sending CVs around can be pretty inefficient also. Yeah.
And I know one thing I'll add is I know there are people listening to this that would, if you were to classify yourself as any trait, you might say that you're an introvert, right? It is necessary to communicate with people at some point in your career. So there is an essence, I'll say, where you just have to kind of almost challenge yourself and reward yourself and say, look, I'm going to go do this for an hour. And in return, I'm going to spend 3 hours reading a book wrapped in a blanket with the heater on in the corner and not see another human soul, right? So challenge yourself, reward yourself, because it is something you need to do. And it's super valuable. So
like it or not, we're all in the business of selling our skills to a certain extent, right? So that marketing part has to be there.
So do you want to list off all 8 before we wrap?
Yeah, that's nice. Let me do that. 1, communication is everything. 2, deliberate practice. Code every day and be resourceful. Adapt a growth mindset, number 3. Number 4, be a generalist. Niche down later. 5, focus on the compound movements. Don't get distracted by shiny new objects. 6, know your business domain. Code does not live in a vacuum. 7, share your work, teach others. And 8, do networking every single week.
Nice.
So hope that helps.
Yeah, I hope everyone finds that useful. That's our 8 tips for how to make
High
the perfect
mode D.
How to make the perfect meatloaf. What am I reading? Wrong thing. Anyway, so Bob, before we wrap it up, I'm going to ask you quickly. By the way, this was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed.
Yeah, this was nice. Yeah.
Just so everyone knows, we have, as always, we have no script. We literally wrote the 8 points down and then said, "All right, let's just go."
Yeah. At most, we have an outline, a structure.
Yeah.
So
that was good. But I'm going to ask you quickly. I know this has been a bit of a longer episode because of the 8 tips. What are you reading? What books?
Yeah, I thought I pivoted a little bit, putting you on the spot, but or surprise you. It's all unscripted, right? So I have the right to do so. So instead of my books, I was just going through the list and just making sure we have books for as much. So I mentioned range, but also for deliberate practice, I want to recommend Peak. Growth mindset, I want to recommend Mindset by Carol Dweck. And not much else.
Okay.
But business domain, DDD, domain-driven design comes to mind. I've not finished that yet, but that seems a good book overall to keep it software.
You're a walking library, I tell you. He just knows his stuff. I don't know how he does it, but anyway.
Well, I just want to give some books in the context of what we spoke about. Do you have one on networking?
On networking, it's called "Just Go and Pick Up the Phone." That's okay. No, I don't have a book on networking. You know what? Why don't we write a book on networking?
Deal.
There you go.
Let's do it.
No. Oh crap! Can we edit this out?
No, we cannot.
That's accountability. What have I done? No. All right, there you go. So the book is the Future Pybites book on networking. Networking the Pybites way. How about that?
Date yet to be announced. Yeah.
TBD.
You had a specific book you wanted to share?
No, nothing specific. I mean, we only recorded the last podcast a few days ago, so nothing's changed. I'm still reading that Wizard of Earthsea book, book 3. What I did want to say though in this moment was I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who has given feedback to us in some way, shape, or form on this podcast. That's also a win in a way, but it just in like the past 5 days, I feel like things have exploded with feedback on this podcast, and we've had so many people make different comments and different forums to say they've appreciated listening to us. You spoke with someone today, I think, Bob, where you said they were listening to us on a plane. I know people listen to us while walking the dog, while driving to work every day. Some people listen to the podcast with their kids in the car. It's
everyone else swearing.
Yeah, but that's why we don't swear. You beep. No, that's it.
There will be too much editing. Okay,
exactly. But honestly, it's such a pleasure, and it really means a lot when we hear that. Even I know AJ Kerrigan, who's a regular listener and a good friend of ours, even said that he appreciated the whole reading thing that I said I felt burnt out from the tech books. That was AJ, right?
Yep.
Yeah, just checking.
I wanted to call you out of that as well. The fiction part. Yeah, it's really so nice to read fiction, and it's another kind of, you can still learn a lot, but it's kind of a more passive way, and to be wrapped up in a story is just amazing. So
yeah, so we got to write our networking book in it as a fictional story.
Products coming to life. Okay.
All right.
Now we appreciate you. Thanks for all that feedback. We have a lot of fun with this podcast, but we also deeply care about keeping it dense, providing a lot of content, always in the context of helping you as a Python developer, always highlighting the mindset. But it's also, it's a lot of work. So getting that feedback is really nice, and also hearing how it's helping you or what we could do better or add to the mix. That will all make it better. So keep that feedback coming. Highly appreciate it.
Nice. Yeah. Well, thank you again, everyone. And also, I know we have some new listeners. Bob just got a wonderful Bonjoro reply from someone who's just started listening. So thank you and welcome to all of our new listeners as well. But that's it. I'm done yapping. I'm ready for a drink of water. I finished my glass, Bob. How is your glass of water?
It's still on the table, yeah. Yeah. What do we talk about next week?
Oh, don't put me on the spot. I don't know. What are we talking about next week?
So people see how well we were prepared.
We'll see you next week.
We'll see. All right.
Beautiful.
That's been a
Thanks,
pleasure.
Everyone.
Thanks again. Shout out to PyMod for asking that question. Has led to a really nice discussion, which I think will help a lot of people.
Beautiful. Thanks, everyone. Take care. We'll see you next week.
See you in the next one. Bye. We hope you enjoyed this episode. To hear more from us, go to Pybites/friends. That is pybit.es/friends, and receive a free gift just for being a friend of the show. And to join our thriving Slack community of Python programmers, go to Pybites/community. That's pybit.es/community. We hope to see you there and catch you in the next episode.